Howdy folks, I've been messing around on the test server in World of Tanks. There's a test up for the new motion physics, and I thought I'd like to get on and have a go myself rather than relying on pre-recorded material provided by Wargaming. And of course the test server is now up exactly for that purpose, so having a go at messing around in tanks and seeing exactly what this motion physics thing is all about. Now, as predicted, when I put the original motion physics video up using the footage supplied by Wargaming, most of the comments were, "Oh my god, this looks like War Thunder tank arcade mode," despite my saying that what you were watching was somebody specifically trying to put the tank through all different kinds of tricks. You certainly can do some very interesting stuff with the tanks with the new motion physics. Have a look at this wrecked MS-1 for example. It's a heck of a lot easier to push a wreck of a tank around if you've got the right amount of weight and power and and flip it over completely. I don't know if you guys can remember as far back as before physics was introduced, but you just could not move the wreck of a tank at all. On a map like Lakeville, for example, if the tank had died sideways on along that road running up the side of the lake, it was blocked. You couldn't get around it. Obviously the introduction of physics changed that to a degree. Certainly if you have enough weight and power behind your tank, you are able to shoulder the wreck of a tank away, but it seems like it's going to be a lot easier to do it now under the right circumstances with the new motion physics. Now, what you're not seeing me do at the moment is specifically try to get the tank to do the kind of tricks that you saw them doing in the stock video footage provided by Wargaming, and I'm doing this specifically to try to lay to rest the fears of the people that think World of Tanks is turning into War Thunder tank arcade battles. That's just not the case. I'm driving the tank normally. I'm not using the handbrake. And because I'm driving the tank normally, I'm not using the handbrake, I'm not trying to swing the back end out, I'm not trying to do a power drift in the tank. It is handling pretty much exactly the way I'm used to the tank performing on the live server, but with one subtle difference. It's little things like that. The way the weight of the vehicle shifted to the front as the tracks were blown off, the way the back end rose up as all that inertia shifted the weight of the vehicle onto the front suspension, causing the front suspension to sink when the tank was brought to a sudden halt like that. And the same is true when you do it, well, through choice, as well as getting your tracks blown off. The way, and I'm trying to show you as many shots of the side of the vehicle as possible so you can see the way the suspension is working on the ground, something that they didn't really do in the stock footage that Wargaming provided to us. It was mostly views of the rear of the tank. You couldn't really see the way the suspension was working, which was kind of disappointing, given that the way the suspension works is one of the major features of this whole motion physics thing. Keep an eye on the actual suspension of this T62. After I finish pushing this AMX 1390 off the hill and then slide sideways down, watch the way the suspension takes the weight of the tank as I drive into this dry riverbed. Now, you see that? And then I apply the handbrake and 180-degree turn, and within a second the tank's facing the other direction and I'm underway again. What Wargaming have actually done here is very subtle. Unless you're specifically trying to make the tank stand up and do tricks, you're not going to notice a massive amount of difference. Things are going to feel slightly different, but you're going to be driving the tanks pretty much exactly the same way that you have always driven the tanks, unless you are specifically trying to use the steering in conjunction with the handbrakes to get the tanks to do the new things that the tanks can do. I mean, right here, I'm driving forward, I'm not touching the handbrake, but I'm steering left, I'm steering right, and the tank isn't spinning and sliding and drifting all over the place. It's handling exactly the way you would expect a T62A to handle in World of Tanks. By contrast, the guy in the ELC here is definitely driving to impress, putting this little tank through its paces, trying to see what he can get it to do with the benefit of the implementation of motion physics. Light tank drivers are going to be having so much fun. Look at this guy throw this tank around. Actually, while we're getting on the subject of throwing tanks around, watch this. Now that's not the impressive part. But that wasn't too bad. Watch this. And that's not one, but two complete rolls. And he was very lucky to actually land the right way up. If he'd landed upside down, that would have been his tank out of the game, destroyed. Now, I'm slapping the handbrake on here. Start to do some donuts myself. You'll note that only one of the tracks is actually moving here. And then we'll switch to the other side. Start turning the other direction. See the way the dust and sand is only being kicked up by one set of moving tracks. And then off we go. I did actually attempt myself to make the T62A here perform the same stunt that you just saw the ELC AMX doing, but, well, it's a heavier tank and it's not going as fast, and so instead it just handles realistically. Bit of handbrake there to make a rapid direction change, and that's really what you're looking at. As far as playing random battles or clan wars is concerned, what you're probably going to see, I mean, you're probably going to see people driving the tanks like absolute idiots and doing donuts in the middle of the field on Prokhorovka. Because, you know, World of Tanks. But, well, what's the point of motion physics? What value does it add to the game? And aside from making things look and feel a little bit more realistic, what it's actually doing is it's not about turning the game into a world of rally cars. It's not about Tokyo Drift tanks. You can do that. Since we're not driving tanks for pink slips, that's not really going to do you any good in a game. What you can use these new motion physics for, however, is to effect some rapid and violent changes of direction using the steering and the handbrakes in order to get the front end of this tank pointed in the direction of the threat in the shortest possible time imaginable. And if you absolutely definitely want to, you can always just drive your T62A in a flying handbrake turn off the top of the nearest cliff.
We're done for. Everyone get out.
Because reasons. Anyway, I hope this video has at least gone some way towards laying to rest the fears of quite a number of people that saw my first video on motion physics using the stock footage provided by Wargaming and thought that World of Tanks was turning into War Thunder arcade tank battles on ice. That is definitely not the case, unless you choose to drive your tank in that way. It's about giving you more options. As always, folks, take care, and I'll catch you next time.